Thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Player killing. Quite possibly the darkest endgame activity in Diablo 2. For decades, this game has been home to some of the most creative, ridiculous, and downright evil ways to ruin someone's day. From glitch exploits to item-stealing traps to hacks that could erase your character before you even knew what happened. This is the history of Diablo 2's darkest era. Not to be confused with dueling, where players engage in consensual combat, player killing targets an unsuspecting victim, and the death penalty in this game can be quite substantial. In Diablo 2, you can play in one of two ways, softcore or hardcore. In softcore, dying just means a trip back to town. Maybe you lose some gold and experience, no big deal. But in hardcore, death is permanent. When you die, your character and everything on it is gone forever. Player killing, or PKing, exists in both modes, but in hardcore, the stakes are higher because the victims don't get a second chance. And while the history of player killing goes back quite far, even nowadays it's not uncommon to see the remnants of such tomfoolery all over BattleNet. One of the oldest and dirtiest tricks in the book, the dirty TP. It's a setup so simple yet so effective that even veteran players can fall for it. You're in a party and someone opens a town portal. You click on it expecting to safely join a comrade in combat, but instead, you die. And PKers still find ways to keep it fresh. A teammate offers to give you battle orders, but their portal is right outside of Harrogath. Watch out. And as funny as some of these PK traps are, they're nothing compared to the darkness of D2's past. Back in the early days of Diablo 2, the game was full of loopholes that PKers were more than happy to crawl through, and some of these were downright absurd. If the first town portal trick wasn't dirty enough, there was another one prior to patch 1.10. If you were in a party and witnessed your teammate doing this, it was already too late. Entering a town portal immediately after throwing an oil potion would cause all players in the immediate vicinity to disconnect from the server. When this happens, your character sits in game for around 30 seconds before dropping due to timeout. And 30 seconds was plenty of time for another player to hostile you, then come back to the area and kill you. Around that same time, there was no hostility timer. That's the hidden 10-second timer that prevents players from using a waypoint after hostiling another player.
Impossible.
So there truly was danger around every corner. And while it seems like you could die in an instant with this exploit, it was actually one of the slower methods of PKing at the time. Absentee skills were a big problem at one point in the game's history. These are skills with their own AI, or skills that have extremely long casting delays. They would persist outside of town, and they could immediately affect a player if they were suddenly hostile to the player who casted them. Exploits like these made hardcore group play practically impossible back then. But oddly enough, the player-killing exploits of those days weren't exclusive to hardcore. Corpse popping was the most profitable PK trick in Diablo history. Players today think that corpse popping is an in-game scam. The story goes that it's pulled off by convincing your victim that you know a dupe method, and it involves PKing them 17 times. And that's because the game can only store 16 corpses. So on the 17th kill, you can make them drop all of the items they have equipped. While this story is cute, and I'm sure some poor soul fell for it at one point, it's not historically accurate, unlike War Thunder. The devs have put so much historical attention to detail in this game that I can't believe they let us play it for free. There's over 2,500 tanks, planes, choppers, and ships from 10 major nations all at your fingertips. From biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s to fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. This game has deeply detailed vehicles with wild levels of custom features. The realistic graphics and incredible sound design place you right at the helm of the most powerful war machines of our time. Join over 95 million players for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile. And if you're a new player or haven't played in 6 months, you'll also receive a massive bonus pack on PC and console that includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor vehicle decor, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. It's available for a limited time, so be quick. The most notorious use of corpse popping was in patch 1.09, and it wasn't a scam sold to victims as a dupe method.
I remember there was like a bug or something where people would just drop a bunch of random items on your corpse, and then instead of clicking your corpse, getting back your gear, you would equip these random items, and then if they kill you again, you would actually drop your real gear. I remember I lost like half a character like that once.
Rob's right. It was a dirty trick that players would pull in the blood more while dueling each other. In 1.09, softcore players could only have one corpse, and in case you're not familiar, the corpse is basically a simulated version of your dead character that holds all of your items on it. When most people die in PvP, they don't leave the game, they just go and get their body. And that is where the tomfoolery happened. The dirty trick was usually done in teams of 2, but it didn't have to be. Players would stack a ton of trash items all around your corpse. When you tried to pick up your body, you'd accidentally click on one of the trash items and equip it. Then, when you actually clicked on your body afterwards, you'd hear the worst phrase you can possibly hear on the battlefield.
I can't carry anymore.
This means that your body was only partially recovered and that you need to clear some space in order to finish picking it up. Basically, there was an item that wouldn't fit on your body because the trash item was there. It also meant that all the items from your corpse that could be re-equipped were. And if you got killed again in that moment, it wasn't good. This happened to so many players in PvP, and it was devastating. But it wasn't long before the biggest sweeping change in D2 history would end all of this nonsense for good. Or would it? Patch 1.1 was the biggest game changer in Diablo 2's history. Some remember it as the patch that introduced Enigma and many other rune words, along with adding skill synergies. In this update, which was practically an expansion, many PvP exploits were patched. Players could now have up to 16 bodies, and while that didn't really solve the corpse popping issue, it certainly curbed it quite a bit. Additionally, the no pickup command was added and still exists in the game's 2021 remake. This turned off the player's ability to interact with items on the ground, making it easier to grab your body in a sea full of trash items. Many of the absentee skills were also corrected. Hammers, blizzard, meteors, etc. no longer persisted if the player who casted them went back to town. With all this attention given to the broken PvP scene, more players returned to hardcore, and while these changes made BattleNet seem like a safer place, it was really the start of one of the darkest eras of player killing. Hardcore felt safer in 1.10, so the number of hardcore players increased. But unfortunately, this gave PKers an ocean of new players to mess with. And there were some exploits that flew right under the radar. One PK method used at that time still haunts some players to this day. Towns are supposed to be safe zones where players can't use fighting skills to harm each other. There's even an invisible barrier around towns that prevent attacks from coming in. Town really was the last bastion of safety for hardcore players. It was the one place where they didn't have to worry about getting PK'd. That was until some learned about this the hard way. There's a glitch that still exists in Diablo 2, and while it isn't very useful nowadays, years ago it was used to kill other players who were in town. If a barbarian whirlwinds through another player, that player becomes immune to enemy projectiles until they move. In that state, missiles just pass through that player and won't interact with them. If another player's mercenary shot a projectile at the glitched player, the projectile would also glitch out. After passing through the player, it could no longer be stopped by the invisible town barrier. This would allow it to connect with players who were within the safety boundaries of town. While this one wasn't very well known, the players who did experience it probably had their first what the f death in hardcore. With the addition of new rune words in patch 1.10 came all new exploits involving their use. And while mosaic builds might be pretty well known for being busted, few builds truly compare to this one from back in the day. Legacy veterans may remember the era of aura stacking, a glitch that overstayed its welcome for many years. This was possible with the new rune words Dragon and Dream. There was a way to continuously apply more and more instances of these auras at once. With the Mercenary, it was pretty simple. You'd first equip them with a Dream rune word, then you'd use another copy of the item to do this. Replacing one of them repeatedly would confuse the game, and it would stack a new aura onto the Mercenary every time you did this. These auras could also be stacked on the player. This would be done in the trade screen by continually accepting a trade that you couldn't carry. Every time the trade failed, it would reset your auras, essentially reapplying them over and over again. The way it works in D2 is if you're wearing 2 items that give the same level 14 aura, you essentially have a level 28 aura. So naturally with this trick, you could achieve aura levels in the thousands, depending on how long you wanted to sit there and do this. The aura did a massive amount of elemental damage at such a vicious range. So if you were anywhere close to a hostile player's screen when they had this exploit active, it was over. But there was one PK method that stood high above the rest, to the point where it defined an entire era in hardcore. TPPK, or Town Portal Player Kill, was the king of all PK methods. While Blizzard might have patched absentee skills, some attacks were considered to be too fast and were just overlooked. Skills like Firebolt, Bone Spear, Arrow Projectiles, and many more weren't fixed in the same way as absentee skills. In the time it would take a player to open a town portal, go back to town, pull up the party screen, and hostile another player, it's reasonable to assume that those attack animations would be long gone and over with. But if you were quick enough, you could do this. While it was technically possible to do this legitimately, most PKers used a program called BMPK, or Blue Moon Player Killer. But these TPPK kills were truly vicious. They came out of nowhere and left players wondering what happened. For 7 years, TPPK and aura stacking went unpatched. But finally, around the time that tokens were added to the game, these things were also fixed. Player killing has taken many forms in Diablo 2 throughout the years, and to this day, D2 remains one of the only ARPGs where you can be the villain. Love it or hate it, something about this Wild West title just hits a little different. Don't forget to show some love to War Thunder. You can play for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. PC and console players, if you're new or haven't played in 6 months, you get all of these bonuses just for using my links.